Juicy news around the NBA world. We're going to go through a couple things. The great Gregg Popovich retires. What's next for LeBron? I'll tell you. He's going to stay in LA and soak up some sun. And then we'll talk about the Cooper Flagg lottery coming up here on Monday. We'll go through a couple of the percentages. Alex Monaco, where are you with Gregg Popovich and those? Honestly, when I hear his name, I immediately think of Tony Parker, Ginobili, Tim Duncan, and those squads. Where are you at
Absolutely.
with, where he lands and those teams land in the historical sense of the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, Pop is a big part of our childhood. I mean, we're in our early mid-30s here, so our entire basketball journey was centered around Pop coming in when we were around 10 years old, and that was the culture, Spurs culture, built by him. You know, I'm not sure if he was the one who had the first wherewithal to kind of give his guys some grace throughout a gauntlet of an 82-game season, but from championship culture to servant leadership to being player first and just an all-time, to me, great coach. I mean, I put him, if we're going top 4 coaches, Mount Rushmore of all time, he's without question in the conversation. Obviously, we wish him the best from a health perspective. I think the Spurs are an all-class organization. I think they're handling everything with Pop, putting his health first and handling that all very, very classy. And as far as just where he is on the grand scheme of things, it's a guy that you can't tell the basketball NBA story without. And when you look back on his legacy, you're going to think about he was so personable with Duncan, and he was so good at getting the most out of his players. And, that was a coach who went at LeBron in his prime, Sean, and it was an all-time couple of series there. And that time where that Allen 3 ended up going Miami's way, and they came back and they beat the brakes off of Miami. I mean, that just goes to show you, even though Pop was great with the media and he was a light-hearted individual, he had a lot of DOG, and it showed with his boys. They always played two ways. But what say you about GP?
I saw a perfect tweet. I can't remember who it was from, so I apologize. But he said, Gregg Popovich is the reason your favorite team plays the way they play, and he's also the reason your favorite superstar doesn't play back-to-backs. And I thought it was so perfectly said. He was player first. I've never, ever heard a player come out and say anything negative about Popovich, and I think that's kind of all you need to know. When your name comes up, when you're not around, what are people saying? And I think it's always a positive thing when it comes to Gregg Popovich. So I'm glad he's recovering from his stroke well. Did a press conference the other day. Still had a couple jokes moving to the operations side of things for the Spurs. But he'll still have his handprints all over what's going on down in San Antonio with Victor Wembanyama. Huge offseason for them coming up. I'm excited to see where they go and what direction, and if they can add anyone with De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, we shall see. But yeah, I'm glad Greg Pop is doing well for all the things he did for USA Basketball. I mean, the list is extremely long, but yeah, when his name comes up, it's all positive things, and I think that's where you want to be as a human, and of course, you want to have a bunch of rings as a coach, and that's exactly what Pop has.
And as a human, real quick, the one thing that sticks out, last thing, real quick, is remember when Kawhi was getting chirped by the fans at the line, and Popovich walks over like it's a high school gymnasium, grabs the PA mic, and goes, "Stop booing him." I mean, you would have thought the way Kawhi did the Spurs, Pop would have had, a Godfather Italian vendetta against him. It was the exact opposite. He was all class, and yeah, to your point, very, very much player first. I had to throw that in.
No doubt. Yeah, that's a great call out. That was very high school gym. Where are the bleachers
at? High school gym. I'm like, I didn't even know the mic worked like that. You can just address it like it's 300 people.
What's next for LeBron James? What a fun question this is. He gets dusted off.
For you.
He gets dusted off in the playoffs for the third straight year. Completely dusted. Sweep, 1 win in his last 3 series as a Los Angeles Laker coming off the title. He had a knee injury, grade 2 MCL sprain coming off of those games against Minnesota. He did not look right in the fourth quarter. So I wasn't surprised when those reports came out. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. When LeBron James put on a Lakers uniform, he was comfortable with his legacy already. If he never scored another bucket, he was going to be fine. Yeah. If he never got another title, he was going to be fine. And that's exactly where we're at now, I think. He still loves playing. He's going to continue to plug away. He still is playing at a very high level. So I expect to see a lot more of him, but he's not pressed, man. I don't know if he has that pressing go-getter want like he did before, just because it's hard to do that when you have accomplished as much as him and you live in sunny Los Angeles, California. The place is a farce altogether. That's my word for But anytime Los Angeles comes up, I'm like, yeah, the place is a farce. It's just a funny. It's just like La La Land is the perfect way to describe it. It's just like it's just a farce. So LeBron is enjoying himself, relaxing.
I have said it. I like to say it again. It's difficult to tell any man to take a pay cut. But when you're in the bees and the billionaire world, now it's interesting because if he doesn't care about winning anymore, which to your point, my goodness, years ago, plural, it was all right not winning, or at least okay legacy-wise, then there's no reason for him to take a pay cut. But he's in a perfect scenario. I'm not going to call him Karl Malone-esque, GP on the Lakers-esque, but if you go back to that 03-04 team that did lose to the Pistons, if he does take a little, I'm not telling him to go down to 10 million, but if he doesn't go for over 50, they have an opportunity to compete for a championship if they fill out the roster, but they cannot fill out the roster in the same way, Sean, if he takes top dollar. That would be my wish. Likely not to happen. Where do you really see guys doing that? Ironically, Karl Malone did take that pay cut. I remember vividly. It was like $20 million down to a couple.
Yeah.
But, I mean, tossing it back to you, any chance he does take a hometown discount? I mean, this is where I always think when you're Brady, when you're LeBron, can like the organization give you back end like a movie? Listen, our budget up front is only this, but we can give you back end. You know, like, is there anything?
A couple signage.
That's what I'm saying. A couple of points. I mean, that would be my wish because they just were so far away from the pieces. But yeah, any quick thoughts on that? Since he is going to hang around for likely a year or two.
Yeah, it's tough to call because he's never done it. He's been a billionaire for a few years.
Wait. Didn't him and Bosch and Wade all take that $15 million each? Remember that? They all took that same amount of money, if I'm not mistaken. I could be off.
Yeah,
I feel like they all. It wasn't a crazy pay cut, but at the time, I think they all sacrificed, $5-ish million.
Yeah, I don't have that number in front of me, so I don't want to say. But historically, outside of maybe a potential couple of years with Miami, LeBron's been tipping the scale at a full freight. So I don't know if he's going to give any of that money back. And by the way, he's paying his son $8 million too. So he's not giving discounts anywhere. You're paying me full freight. You're gonna pay Bronny full freight. So it's you know what's hilarious? Why this didn't get talked about that much? Why did Bronny even have a playoff roster slot? Like, what are we even doing?
Would have been a little helpful, Sean.
Would have been helpful maybe to have someone else that could get some minutes in the playoffs on the squad. I digress there, but
yeah.
Yeah, what's next for LeBron is Luka Doncic needs to be in shape, and if he's in shape, then there's a lot of possibilities. There's a real possibility that if Luka is in good enough shape, LeBron, I mean, he's never done this in his career. He's always played a lot of games, but man, what's stopping him from playing 50 games in the regular season and showing up spring and spry? I guess he wants to be all NBA and continue to do that. So he might hit 63 on the dot But
give the Lakers a ring. Give them a shot. I love that theory. I love that approach.
And just
love
be
it.
super, super duper fresh come playoffs. We'll see. Big offseason for a lot of teams here in the National Basketball Association.
I found those contract numbers, Alex. You were right about it, actually. But the Heat contracts, they went up each year for LeBron, but Dwayne Wade kind of stayed around 15 for that whole tenure. But you were right, and that was still about as much as he'd been paid for the Cavs too. So shows how the contract values changed in 15 years too. But yeah, they're all around 15 mil.
I'd say for sure, no question. Good stuff there, Pete. All right, let's close it out here.
Yeah, we're out of here.
The NBA Cooper Flagg lottery.
Sean, let me throw this before you dive in because I just sent it to you. Can we can we alleviate the lottery and go with a G League winner, worst team in the NBA down to the G League? Can we get in England? We saw the Wrexham climb it up. We've talked about it on the Juice Bar. Would that be riveting? I mean, it's so fascinating to think a G League team would be ingratiated, but it would change the lottery, would change the whole. I mean, you're almost making a case ratings-wise for like people watching Wizards basketball, people watching the Charlotte Hornets down the stretch in March because of this. Do you think it could work?
Yeah, but the ownership would never let that happen. Of course it works. The Premier League is the perfect example of it working. And football around the world is a perfect example of you got to have leverage and you got to have reason for some of these squads. And down the stretch in the Premier League, typically there's a real battle not to get sent down to the championship.
Like what would happen? It would be a two-pronged effect too, because what would Cooper Flagg, if you knew the Hornets were playing in the G League next year, if they had the worst record, that makes the Cooper Flagg decision a completely different decision. It almost it'd be fascinating. It would definitely ruffle everything up though.
It would be. And also, just how teams rosters would get filled in the G League. There'd be a lot less bench guys in the league because there would be a lot more to go get in the G League. Like if you were like, I can go play and then potentially solidify my role in a squad that gets amplified next year and can be up in the league. Yeah, it's a different model because there's just not a lot of basketball players. There's 300 guys in the NBA in the entire every year. So there's just not a lot of guys. There's literally 300 guys in the NBA. There's 150 that play. There's 70 that are really, 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 really good, with Josh Hart being number one. So it's a very slim pickings when it comes to the league. But yeah, I mean, anytime you can create higher leverage and higher pressure spots, you're going to get a better outcome. And that's what we've seen here.
I mean, I enjoy watching the bottom of the Premier League table just out of curiosity on a Saturday. See if, Everton, not this year, but, can get out of the bottom. But yeah, no, I mean, Cooper Flagg sweepstakes here. Talk to me. It looks like the Jazz, the Wiz, the Hornets, all 14%. Right after them, the Pels and the Sixers. Any hot takes on where the ping pong ball lands?
Yeah, 14% to get the number one pick, the Cooper Flagg pick for the Jazz, Wizards, and the Hornets. He seems like he would fit for the Hornets. I would love for him to go there out of those three squads. Those three squads also have a 52% chance to pick top four. So heavy favorites to have a top four pick. But when you start to get into some of these other squads, Pelicans, 12.5% to get the first pick. That's not nothing. The 76ers, 10.5%. Tyrese Maxey and Cooper Flagg would work. That's not nothing at 10.5%. Brooklyn Nets, 9%. What if you can add Cooper Flagg and then potentially go get Giannis? That's rumblings for the Brooklyn Nets at 9%. Yeah. Toronto, 7.5%. Then San Antonio, 6%. If they somehow get the number one pick, David Stern comes back from the from the depths and makes sure the Spurs get the number one pick. That would be interesting with Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, and Cooper Flagg. So stay tuned there. But one thing that's interesting, Last year, the Hawks only had a 3% chance for the number 1 pick. Spurs, 14%, 14%, 14%, 14%. For Spurs, Magic, Pistons, Timberwolves, the last 4 years. So if you go back, for the last 5 years, a team with 14%, which those 3 favorite teams have gotten that number 1 pick. So it typically has gone to that top 3 slot. If I had to pick
hey,
one,
you're
I
in
would pick
Vegas.
the
That
Hornets.
just shows you how hard it is to win. You're over here with every edge in the world and not the first slot getting it in the last. That's crazy. Pre-lottery, 10th, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 7th, last 6. That's silly.
Yeah. So
Any to get out of here on what team you think it would be best for the basketball product for him to go to? I think Philly would be riveting. But you make a case for
Philly would be awesome. San Antonio would be, if I could hand select a lottery team, it'd be San Antonio. They'd be awesome. They'd be able to grow 2 stars in that system. And I think Cooper and Victor would play off each other very well. Now, remember, Victor Wembanyama was DPOY favorite the entire year before he got hurt, but the overall team defense was horrid. It was like 24th, 25th in the NBA. If you can add Cooper Flagg defensively and have Victor, that could get really, really spooky, depending on how else they fill out the roster. But yes, if I could hand select, it'd be the Spurs. Out of the favorites, it would be Charlotte. I think you put LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Miles, Bridges, and Cooper Flagg with Williams, who stayed.
Little Mark Will.
Yeah. Little Mark Will, who ended up staying and not going to the Lakers. I think that could be an interesting proposition as well.
I like it. I'm with you.
Juice Bar, salute to Pop. Enjoy retirement, brother. Don't work too hard in the front office. LeBron, keep soaking up the vitamin D down
Keep soaking
in
up
LA.
the salary cap. Keep soaking up the salary cap. Thank you.
Soak up the vitamin D and the cap. Shout out Bronny's.
And roster spots. Just kidding.
Roster spots, cap, all of it. And Cooper Flagg lottery. Tune in Monday. Balls will be bouncing.
Let's go.
Juice Bar, MSG Network. If you want the realness, the straight takes, come hang out with us. We go through everything from narratives to actual gameplay to breaking down numbers in the betting market. Alex Monaco, Sean Little, come hang out with us. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can get the Juice Bar.